viewed sometimes in a negative light because she did not accompany the body to the cemetery. Fair enough, because at that time that was not the practice. You, as a widow, were supposed to mourn. You were supposed to, put ashes on you. You know what I mean? There were a whole bunch of things that she was supposed to do other than this. So give her that. However, what is a little bit dark is that she did not go to the cemetery at all until 1808, folks. He dies in 1791. That's a long time to suddenly then say, hey, I wonder where the old guy is. Let me go see if we can find out where he's buried. Because by this time he's becoming very, very, very well known and becoming a celebrity. And that is a little dark, right? I mean, you don't go there at all, and now you're going to go. So she goes and she asks the person who's in charge of the cemetery, whose name is Joseph Rothmeyer. Joseph Rothmeyer, Rothmeyer. My husband is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and he died in 1791. And I'm here, and I want to know, where you guys buried him back then. Well, the original guy who would have buried Mozart was already dead. But Joseph Rothmeyer says, but I was around basically at that time, and I remember it, and I think he's buried sort of over there somewhere. Now, by that time, it would have already been recycled, because 10 years is up. 1791, 1801.
17 years.
So it's long since been that the grave's been recycled, even if it was where... Now, you know the story. Come on now. The wife comes in and is asking you where you buried the husband 17 years. Yeah, I know where it was. It's right over here. Where? Yeah. Right. I remember it. It was right here. That's where it was. What are you going to say to that? You can't say much. I don't think it's very reliable. I think that's the least you could say. Probably, how would he remember this guy 70? He wasn't famous. Mozart wasn't famous when he was buried, so nobody would have thought anything of it any more than anybody else. So imagine, being in this business, it'd be like asking a baker where they put a loaf of bread, 15 years ago, right? I mean, there's a lot of loaves of bread coming through here. You get my analogy? There's a lot of bread going in. And, you got to remember one loaf. Not easy to do. You're in a potato chip factory. There's one potato chip I wanted to ask you about. You get my analogy now. Not so easy. So anyway, this is what Joseph Rothmeyer said. He pointed to a particular area. He took them over. He said, it was over here. And that is where they put a memorial to Mozart on the spot that Joseph Rothmeyer said. And I've got some images of that I'll show you fairly soon that show what this image looks like. It's a beautiful monument. It's an angel that's weeping over a column that's broken in half. So the symbolization of this, the symbolic logic, is that Mozart's life is like a broken column. It's not yet finished, but it's already broken at age 36, and the angel is weeping for what we've lost. That's fair enough. It's a beautiful statue, really quite lovely. And it's completely isolated because presumably this was all common ground where people were buried for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of, well, not hundreds of years, 100 years, because that's about the length of time that cemetery was in business. But a lot of people are buried in that basic area. So when you are in the St. Mark's Cemetery, the truth is we don't know where he's buried. But I'll tell you what, you feel an extraordinary presence when you're there in a way that you don't feel anywhere else in any of the Mozart museums or the houses or anything. There's just a real sense of you can just feel this presence saying, yeah, man, thanks for coming all the way out here and just hanging out when you don't even know where I am, right? And it's really cool of you to do that. And you just feel this really strong bond. And it is so peaceful there. It's absolutely worth any effort that you spend in getting there. So we're going to take a look at what that looks like in a minute. But first I want to tell you about the Requiem Mass and how it actually went about. We know then that it was commissioned by Wolsek, by a servant from Wolsek's house, and he shows up. Maynard Solomon is very good at giving the details for the way that this basically went, the layout of time, when the first contact was made, when the second contact was made, so on and so forth. It was not Salieri who was accompanying Mozart during the writing of this, but Mozart did have students who were something like apprentices. In those days, you didn't go to college to become a composer or to learn any craft. You went to college primarily to become a doctor or to become a civil servant, a lawyer of some sort, but you didn't go to become a musician. So if you wanted to become a musician, you had to apprentice with a musician. And the pupil who was apprenticing with Mozart at the time of his death is named Sussmeyer, Susssmeyer. Sussmeyer is the one who was helping Mozart during the time that he was sick to get a handle on the Requiem Mass. And it was largely Sussmeyer's work that completed it so that Constanzi could get a complete payment from Count Wolsek. So this is the story of the Mozart Requiem. It's an amazing piece because Mozart did not live to finish it. He finished only a small portion of it, and we're going to study that in a minute. First, let me give you the footage of the cemetery so that you can get a sense of what this looks like. All right, this is the outside. I want to give you first a sense of just how shocking it is when you take a look at the outside of this place where the Autobahn comes around it and where these sort of streets are, how kind of industrial the place is. Okay, look at all this, industry all over there. Here's the Autobahn, and that's it right there. That's the entranceway to the cemetery itself. This is where all of and that building is original. So this is where, probably when they first brought Mozart down this thing, they would have kept the coffin in this building for a period of time. Now the gate comes open this direction, so you'll start to see the gate next. Now, it's almost completely hidden in this kind of really ugly, that's Autobahn, you betcha. All this traffic noise, right? Very noisy. Look at that. By contrast, right, the ivy on the brick gates of this thing, really very beautiful. That's the entranceway. Now, here is the very entranceway. Once you're standing outside, this is where I would have been, you then walk straight up this way to where I'm going to be standing. So I'm going to be pulling the camera back, then turning around so that you can see that there's an entrance. Mozart's grave is going to be just over in this direction as I pan the camera over. Now my camera work is far from professional, so don't get completely dizzy and fall backwards. But I want to give you just a sense of it, all right? Right, that's Mozart's grave. Here's the back that you're looking at when you're looking down the alleyway towards this. And here's where Mozart is buried. And there's the monument. This is the monument. That is where the cemetery attendant said, that's the spot where we buried him.